After I teased that my upcoming review will be of Dexter's Laboratory, I've been thinking of episodes to talk about for the good and not so good segments. But looking across the series' run, I couldn't ignore its most infamous show. One that isn't extreme in quality in any way, but it's still a very notorious episode, and one of the most famous lost episodes in the long history of TV animation. The Season 2 episode, Rude Removal. Many doubted this episode's existence for the longest time. It was said that the show's creator, Genndy Tartakovsky, would play it at festivals, prefacing that it wasn't appropriate to air on Cartoon Network. As the internet expanded and the cartoon community became more organized and nerdy, more people were discovering and sharing stories about Dexter's dirty little secret. As the rumors got more outrageous,
the user describes Dexter and Dee Dee forming evil twins who did the likes of call each other a, quote, skull bag,
and demand for proof of its existence built up, the Adult Swim Twitter account asked a simple question. Dexter's Lab fans, is there still interest in seeing the lost unaired episode? After a lot of hype, it was finally briefly put up on the Adult Swim website on January 22nd, 2013, nearly 10 years after the show left production. The kids who watched Dexter's Lab in the late 90s and early 2000s had grown up and were ready for anything. And what they got was nothing more or less than a decent episode of a childhood favourite. Directed by Rob Renzetti and written by Chong Lee and Craig McCracken, Rude Removal tells the story of Dee Dee interrupting Dexter while he's making his latest invention, a rude removal chamber that extracts the rudeness from whoever's inside. He plans to use it on Dee Dee, which prompts an argument over who they think is ruder. At this point, it's pretty run-of-the-mill stuff, the show's typical charming, relatable comedy with a sci-fi bend. But things go from TVG to oh geez when they get trapped in the rude removal chamber and come out happy and unhurt, with some unexpected guests. This new vulgar set of clones bully the originals for a while, then go upstairs to make a mess in the kitchen and insult the mum's cooking. You know me, I'm not big on wacky misunderstandings, but I think this works on account of the setup's shock value, and mum's always super naive towards her children's misadventures anyway. The real Dexter and Dee Dee get blamed while the rude clones go f*** up their lab, but leave a note for mum and go there to fix the problem anyway. From now on, I think all obstacles in stories should be solved by characters writing notes excusing themselves. So they go down, Dexter tricks them into going back into the machine, and they fuse back together, leaving on a somewhat downer note. Dexter and Dee Dee are rude to each other again, and Mum has a bar of soap waiting for them. It's not a very long, complicated story. Dexter's Lab was a show that kept things simple and relied on its jokes to keep you invested. And as you can hear, the jokes in Rude Removal are what got it into a lot of trouble. I think you've seen an episode or two from other shows that involve a young character learning a swear and learning why swearing is wrong, whereas here, the rude Dexter and Dee Dee cuss up a storm, and while it's treated like a bad thing, something not to do in front of your parents especially, it definitely rubbed censors the wrong way. The best theory I've got is because this was produced in 1997, and likely intended to air late that year or in early 1998. This was around the time South Park started, which employed a similar censorship loophole where words were bleeped, but you could tell what they were saying.
So you're off then? Yeah, we're gonna go up your lab.
That line doesn't leave much to the imagination, does it? And given how controversial South Park was from the start, airing Rude Removal could have damaged Cartoon Network's reputation. Dexter's Lab was their biggest show during this time, as strange as that sounds today. I like Dexter's Lab, but there have been much better shows since, but I digress. Is there anything that I, a cartoon reviewer in 2020 with different standards from a 90s TV censor, don't like about this episode? Well, there are a few editing and continuity errors, unfortunately right as the conflict kicks in. In the chamber, you can see Dee Dee mouthing, "What's going on?" But first off, she's in the chamber so you can't hear her, and second, computers talking over her. Seems like a waste of a shot when you could stay on the screens. Then after the rude clones leave the lab, Dee Dee says this.
Dexter, I'm sorry those meanies broke your machine and made you look like a wimp.
When was this established or elaborated upon? I was always told it was rude to lie. But I guess when you make nearly 110 episodes in the span of a year, there's bound to be some slip-ups. I guess my typical spiels on animation and characters are up next. It may be a little dusty, but I can tell this episode was well telesened, even if it makes the animation look a little less spectacular in HD. This show had decent animation, but it wasn't the selling point. I guess the designs for Rude, Dexter, and Dee Dee are worth mentioning. They're just different enough to work. I don't know why they're not on the title card though, so here's regular Dexter mooning us, and regular Dee Dee flipping us off. And going by the video quality, this doesn't seem to be made for the re-release. They made this in 1997. I'm stunned. In the episode itself, it's a little hard for me to say Dexter and Dee Dee are in character when they're only meant to be at the start and end. But they are though, and when they're split in two, the contrast between the polite and rude versions is delightful. I even like that the rude ones have a Boston inflection, while the real ones develop British accents out of nowhere. It's a cliche, but a fun one. However, I can never guess how hard it would have been for Christian Kavanagh to give Dexter new accents, on top of his already infamously vague one. That just leaves Mum, whose role is just to be offended by the rude kids and punish the real ones. And this, I have to be frank, is an alright usage of her. Some of the funniest moments with her in the original series were when she was yelling. It showed that she had a freakishly spontaneous backbone. That's a memorable personality trait, and one of her most notable to me. A lot of fans like her for other reasons, but I like her for being a mum. And that's all I have to say about Rude Removal. It's only 7 minutes long, and the story of it being an urban legend for 15 years is just as interesting as the episode. I like it, but I understand why some fans wouldn't, and why standards got cold feet and rejected the completed product. Adult Swim has since privated their upload, but you can still find it easily online if you're curious. It's become a well-known episode, but part of me is happy that it isn't the most well-known. When Dexter's Lab comes to mind, I bet people think about episodes like The Big Cheese, Morning Stretch, and Dexter and Computress Get Mandark before they think of Rude Removal. And I'll talk about those and more in my upcoming review of the whole show. Goodbye for now.